Ben Wheatley's Kill List is a rock-solid film with an unconventional structure and some truly shocking moments. When I saw it, like most people who follow the genre closely, I thought I was witnessing the beginning of a new, powerful voice in horror. Wheatley delivered Sightseers as a follow-up, showing a deft handling of humor with a sharp, wicked edge, but also telling a very sweet story under a lot of altogether wrongness. Then the ponderous A Field in England was released, and I found it to have a meandering plot leading ultimately to nowhere. Wheatley has had a few other releases since then and has proven he's a director with a certain eye for making interesting imagery, but often gets lost in his own minutiae. Inexplicably, Wheatley is connected to direct The Meg 2 next, and I couldn't think of an odder choice for a director for a project of that size and scope. But first, let's talk about the review we have of the day, In the Earth, which was conceived, written, and filmed by Ben Wheatley during the pandemic. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights, a part of the Kings of Horror Network. I'm ML Miller. While you might be watching this video on the Kings of Horror Network, I urge you to click over to my ML Miller Frights YouTube page and give it a like. Please share with all of your buddies. Click subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. In the Earth is new in select theaters from Neon. When it becomes available on demand and digital download, I'll definitely let you know. In the Earth is directed and written by Ben Wheatley. With the world devastated by a plague, a scientist named Martin, played by Joel Fry, ventures to a well-guarded forest reserve to meet with a fellow scientist doing research deep in the middle of the forest. Martin is assigned a guide, Alma, played by Elora Torchia, who escorts Martin through the vast fields and dense forest. Once cleared medically, the two take off, venturing deep into the woods, only to find the landscape transformed into a dangerous, uncharted land full of nature's mysteries, very human dangers, and swirling unknown forces. Ben Wheatley is a filmmaker with scores of interesting ideas. It just feels as if, when he brings those ideas to life, he just doesn't care whether the audience gets the message or not. In the Earth is a pretty straightforward film, up to a point. There's a very familiar pandemic going on, there's a lost scientist in a vast wooded area, and a pair of people set out to find her. Along the way, they run into an obstacle in the form of a man named Zach, played by Reese Shearsmith, a loner who lives in the forest and seems to want to help the pair when they are in need. But somewhere past the halfway point, the cheese kind of slides right off the cracker, and things get trippy. I didn't mind the shift in tone into an area more at home in 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it definitely will be the point where concrete thinkers will tune out. Actually, the strolling pace of In the Earth will tempt those who like more straightforward storytelling to take off, but the final psychedelic moments will make sure to clear the room of those who hate the artsy and the fartsy. I don't want to discredit In the Earth. The final reel is visually stunning. It's just that it doesn't make a load of sense and ends up being just kind of a trippy light show. I guess the lost scientist, Olivia, played by Haley Squires, has found a way to communicate with nature utilizing hallucinogens, computerized sound effects, and bright light. Through folklore, scientific research, a little torture, massive amounts of drugs, and some unwilling victims, Wheatley attempts to tell a story about a world rebelling against the infection known as humanity that are swarming around its surface. Much like Ari Aster's Midsummer, a piece of artwork referenced at the beginning of the film basically tells the entire tale, serving as a stark prophecy to the pair walking into the forest. Of course, the artistic warning is ignored by Martin and Alma, and they go in the woods anyway. Otherwise, there'd be no story. But because the characters don't really recollect the painting, it makes the art piece feel more like the director preening, paying homage or downright lifting from Astor's work without really understanding what made that triptych so powerful in Midsummer in the first place, as the characters see it at the beginning and then realize that they're living it later on. And just as Wheatley borrowed heavily from The Wicker Man or Kill List, he also lifts the opening structure from another trippy nature nightmare flick, Alex Garland's Annihilation, as that film too follows scientists into a landscape changed and made dangerous by unknown forces. While I've seen Wheatley do some wonderfully bizarre and heinous things, I have to say, the guy sure does borrow a lot from his peers in cinema. It kind of weakens the impact of In the Earth when you're too busy naming the films that inspired Wheatley to make this one. Here's a more down-to-earth criticism. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but Martin, played by Joel Fry, is a pretty ineffectual protagonist. He looks like a stiff wind could blow him over. He's whining, crying, hurt, or out of it for most of the film. He's the one who got everybody into this trouble, yet he relies helplessly on Alma to save the day every time. The whole film I was rooting for Alma to lose the excess baggage, leave Martin behind, and save herself. Granted, Martin is put through the gauntlet, and I feel Wheatley is trying to say something about the horrendous torture he endures. There is so much foot torture going on in the Earth that it has to mean something, other than Wheatley might have a wilder foot fetish than Tarantino himself. I guess in order for Martin to understand and accept this new form of science that Olivia is suggesting, he has to completely lose the scientific grounding he firmly stands upon. And what better way to take away one's grounding than completely fucking up his feet? There are moments of toe-curling agony that occur in the Earth, made real through some awesome practical effects. Still, the amount of damage that occurs to Martin's feet begins to get farcical the longer the film goes on. Sure, this drives the point home, but it also makes things downright ludicrous. If that was Wheatley's intent, then good job, I guess. And that's the thing. This is a gorgeous-looking film. Wheatley's cinematography is mesmerizing as he zooms in on mushrooms spurting out powders, trees swaying in the breeze, and close-ups of the wildlife. I also love the use of natural sound with unseen birds screaming like they were in sheer agony off in the distance, and the lack of sound is equally chilling. This descent into madness is amazing as well, as the story shows each character representative of a different stage of seemingly the same kind of dementia-addled state. Everything is so intricately laced and wonderfully visualized. The use of computer-created sound and bright lights in Olivia's experiments, set against the thick forest, make the common forested landscape look like a completely alien world. There's no denying Wheatley's technical skill, and I really think there's a lot of thought put into the way every aspect of this film is put together. That said, while I think I got what In the Earth was going for, it just doesn't feel as original, bold, or groundbreaking as I think it wants you to feel. It's certainly Frankenstein's interesting bits and pieces of other films together in an odd and intriguing way, but I just don't know if this is good or not. If you're the type that appreciates experimental cinema, In the Earth has a lot to offer. The amount of forethought, layers, metaphors, and deep meanings put into this film leads me to want to label it as great. But the unoriginality and pretentiousness is extremely off-putting. I'm torn on this one. I liked huge chunks of it. It's a much stronger film than A Field in England, which I abhorred, but lacks the humor and heart of Sightseers and feels more akin to his first film, Kill List, which was unoriginal yet fantastic despite that. And that's kind of how I feel about Wheatley. Flawed and possibly hackish, but immensely talented despite his own attempts to trip himself up. If you are even slightly intrigued by what I said about this film, give it a chance, and see if it leaves you as perplexed as it did me. What do you guys think of Ben Wheatley's films? Let me know in the comments down below. That'll be it for today. Please chime in down below in the comments and let me know how on the nose or mind-numbingly wrong I am, or you can counter with your own review. So guys, you know how YouTube works. I'd love to be able to dedicate more time to this channel. I'm not monetized yet, so if you want to help me out, remember to hit all the pertinent bells and whistles down below. Want some spooky comics to read? I have 2 new horror comic book trade paperbacks you should look out for. Both Gravetrancers and Pirouette, collecting never-before-published issues, can be found in only the finest of comic book shops. If you're looking for written reviews, you can find them on my website, mlmillerwrites.com. If you really want to show your support, I also have a Patreon page at mlmiller. Look for the link to my Patreon page down below. Thank you so much for your time, and take care. You're doomed.
stuck inside your